Welcome back. Still lots more to break down. Let's talk a little bit about the Chicago Bulls. Of course, we need to get into Ben Simmons and things of that nature, but the Chicago Bulls, oh my goodness, been hit hard by health and safety protocol. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Joining me as always, Keith Smith. Follow him on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. You can find me at Trevor_Lane. Keith, what's going on with the Chicago Bulls? I feel for this team that are, COVID has just run rampant through this whole squad.
Yeah, dealing with an outbreak for sure. They've now got 10 players in the health and safety protocols, including Stanley Johnson is one of the guys who went in it over the weekend.
Their replacement.
And he was a player. Yeah, exactly. He was signed via the hardship to help get them through the other guys who are out. But then Zach LaVine joined this weekend, and then Alize Johnson became the latest player to be out in the health and safety protocol. So just bad times for the Bulls. They are now down to, because 10 players out for COVID reasons. They've also got Patrick Williams out long-term with a wrist injury. So that is 11 players. They do have 19 players on roster right now because they have the two guys on the hardship, Stanley Johnson and Lakers legend Alfonso McKinney are both there. But 8 players, that's the bare minimum you can have to suit up for a game. The Bulls, per Casey Johnson, who's covered the Bulls for nearly 30 years, has said that they reached out to the NBA and asked about postponing Tuesday's game against the Detroit Pistons with no response from the league yet. And it sounds like that game's going to move forward as scheduled. Now, being down to the bare minimum players is not a wholly uncommon thing. Even pre-COVID days, that would happen especially around the trade deadline. If your team made a big trade or made a handful of smaller trades, that's when you sometimes get those goofy lineups of, all right, we're going to play 3 centers because we've only got, 7 guys today. And that's usually when some player who's, got a broken foot or something is in uniform and on the bench, but with no intention of ever putting them in the game.
Right.
So we've seen that. We've also seen it after the Malice in the Palace, so many suspensions and things like that. So, and there's nothing stopping the Bulls from adding more players via hardship. But the Bulls are a team, because they are pretty good, they are hard capped. They want to keep that flexibility under the hard cap as much as possible because, they'd like to maybe make a trade deadline acquisition and add some salary if they have to aid in a finals push. And what they don't want to do is eat into that flexibility by continuing to sign players. And even though it's hardship, these are roster exceptions, not salary cap exceptions, so it all counts.
Yeah, so this is a situation where technically, the Bulls can still play, but they don't really want to. They would rather see things get pushed back, have their full team back. And of course, the fact that they've gotten crushed in their last 2 games to the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers, that doesn't help either. They, of course, would rather than rack up losses on their record because they don't have enough guys, they, of course, would rather see things get postponed till they can get guys back in uniform. But I think the bigger issue is, like you mentioned, the salary thing and what it does to their cap.
Yeah, and let's run through the guys who would be available. Nikola Vucevic, Lonzo Ball, 2 starters. All right, not, terrible. Other teams have played down multiple starters. Alex Caruso, the team's 6th man. And then after that, it gets real ugly. It's 2-way players and then deeper bench guys. So you're talking Alfonso McKinney, Devin Dotson, Tony Bradley, Marko Simonovic, Tyler Cook. And now there is news maybe they'll get Kobe White back in time. He is coming out, but he wouldn't even have had a practice yet with the team from that. So, it's just this is one where I get it. I get why the NBA probably won't. They probably don't want to set a precedent. This might be one where if I was Billy Donovan, I would be like, Alex, your hamstring really doesn't look so good.
Yeah.
Right? You hurting, man? You need another day? And go from there and kind of force the league's hand on this. But you don't know. The league may turn around and be like, sign a player. Go get somebody out of the G League. So we're gonna keep our eyes on this. But as of right now, Bulls Pistons will be on. It might actually be worth kind of tuning in just to see
what happens.
What in the world lineups are the Bulls rolling out there. But it's going to be messy for sure.
There is an infamous picture from Lakers lore going around of back in the day when the Lakers had Chris Kaman, where they had a bunch of injuries hit and there was just no one on their bench to the point where Chris Kaman was laying down on the Lakers bench because there were so many seats available. And Chris Kaman, 7-footer, so he stretched across all these seats. That's the situation the Bulls are in right now, where I'm expecting against the Pistons, assuming that game goes on, the bench is just going to be empty. It's going to be the coaching staff and a bunch of open seats.
Yeah, it's gonna be looking down there like, hey, you go. It's gonna be like when Norman Dale looked down the bench of Hickory High and had to call upon Ollie to go in the game, and Ollie was like, "Wait, me? Really? Go in the game?" So there's a Hoosiers shout out. I worked that in today.
I like it. Well done.
Love that movie.
Let's get, I don't think this is siren worthy. We got into some of the siren worthy stuff over the weekend in terms of, the Ben Simmons stuff. You had the 76ers now aggressively putting together 2 and 3 team trade packages that the December 15th date, where most of the contracts signed during the offseason are now eligible to be traded. Sounds like things are really picking up there. But we got a little bit more info. We got some teams that are interested in trading for Ben Simmons. Some of them make sense, some of them do not. But according to Shams Charania, the 76ers are indeed ramping up their efforts to do a multi-team trade to move Ben Simmons. And the teams that have been interested, well, among the teams interested, the Knicks, Lakers, Timberwolves, Blazers, Kings, Pacers, Cavs. Those are the teams right now that are interested, or among the teams that are interested. But let's go back big picture. Who benefits? Who benefits from this information getting out, Keith?
Yeah, this one's hard, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Philly, probably. My guess is most of all, because it's, hey, look at all these teams that are interested.
Exactly.
Simmons, maybe a little bit, because it's, hey, teams really want to get something done for me. If you continue to hold out, that's on you, not on me. So we could still be seeing a little bit of both sides. You could have a team or two of that grouping there that are, hey, look at us, we're trying to do something, thrown in there too. So long favorite of ours, the Timberwolves. I think we think that makes a lot of sense. The Blazers, we know Damian Lillard, he kind of refuted a lot of things, but he didn't refute that part that he'd like to play with Ben Simmons. Which would be a little rare because he's of course not gonna come out, that's not true, I think he sucks, and then he's your teammate.
Right, exactly.
That's not that's not gonna happen. But it was it's interesting. The Knicks, that one's kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit because that's not a team we'd really heard. In the previous part here, we talked about the Lakers, why this doesn't make sense. The only way the Lakers could do this would be Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, or Anthony Davis. And that's not, there's a variety of reasons that's not happening. And even in a 3-team trade, that's not overly likely to happen.
And this is how I think the Lakers get in. It's Rich Paul. Right. I mean, the Lakers, just because he's a Rich Paul client, they almost have to say, hey, we're interested, or at least or register some degree of interest. Otherwise, it's almost weird that they don't. But logistically, there isn't really a way to make this happen.
And you know what? It's the responsible thing is for Rob Pelinka to pick up the phone and say, hey, Daryl, Russ for Ben straight up. No? All right. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Talk to you later. They're interested.
See you later. Good luck. Yes. So it doesn't, that one's probably not going to happen. But Cavs, Kings, Pacers, all small market teams that we've kind of said, go if you can get them, get your guy, because this is the way to get a star. The Cavs just makes me laugh because I just think it'd be absolutely hilarious to see them keep their three big starters, bring Simmons in, and Darius Garland. He'd be like, what is it? Like the opposite of Gulliver's Travels, right? He's with the Lilliputians. It'd be like the opposite of that scenario. So we'd just be around all these giants.
It would be dodgeball. It would be Ben Stiller's White Goodman in Dodgeball, where his team is just all these big giant athletes, and then it's little
perfect
and Stiller in the middle.
So should that come to pass, we already have the memes queued up and ready.
Darius Garland.
But
you made me bleed my own blood.
I love it. But I mean, and then the Pacers, if you're looking to really start moving stuff, maybe there is a match there to help Philly out, because they could deliver some good bench depth pieces, or maybe even a starter or two. And then the Kings, I think they're going to continue to be involved in stuff. I think what's interesting now with some of these teams is we long assumed if Philly makes the deal with Simmons, they're gonna have to return a primary ball handler, somebody to cover the point guard spot. Don't know that they have to anymore. Tyrese Maxey's playing pretty well. And so now I'm not going to say if you could get De'Aaron Fox, you turn it down, because you could always flip Maxey to fill another need somewhere. But I think there needs more on the wing now than it ever was previous now, with the way Maxey has emerged as a player. So keep an eye on it. But I think all the Simmons stuff coming out here is further what am I trying to say? Further lends further credence to the idea that this will happen by the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to drag into the offseason.
Yeah, agreed. I think that this is definitely picking up and something's going to happen here. And by the way, in terms of asking price, Shams says the 76ers are asking teams for, and this is interesting, an all-star caliber player and or multiple first-round picks. Now, that's not necessarily new. We've heard they want a player plus they want all of the picks in the world, but the or part, right? It's not a all-star caliber player and it's an all-star caliber player and or multiple first-round draft. That suggests that depending on who the all-star caliber player is, maybe they don't need this mountain full of picks. And maybe, and again, this is me reading between the lines a little bit, but maybe this is the 76ers coming down off of their ask just a bit.
Bingo. Yeah, you're right on it. This is the Sixers coming down. The other team's starting to creep up a little bit. And that's why it's going to get done. Yeah. It's going to happen. It's just now it's who and when.
All right. So we talked a lot about some other teams that are, doing things around the NBA. We talked a bit about the Pacers, the Cavs, stuff like that. The Pistons, potentially with Jeremy Grant. On our last video, let's talk a little bit here. So if you're looking for that information, that is on the video just prior to this one. But if you're listening to the podcast version, this is all stitched together in one, and you're probably saying, what are you talking about? But
talked about it.
Let's jump to the Lakers. The Lakers, on the injury front, they've been missing Trevor Ariza and Kendrick Nunn all season. We did get some positive news there. Trevor Ariza, according to Shams, will return within the next 1 to 2 weeks. That's important. He's coming off of ankle surgery. Right now, he is a full go in practice. What the Lakers want him to do now is build himself back up. Remember, with an ankle injury, your conditioning is going to be shot by the time you're fully recovered from it. So that's what they're working on now, getting him back in shape, ready to come back on the floor. Frank Vogel has consistently said that Trevor Ariza will be a major piece to their team and that he does envision Ariza coming back as a means to playing Anthony Davis more at center. So again, that's coming from Frank Vogel. We'll see exactly how he fits into the rotation, but sounds like we're a week or two away for him coming back. And then Kendrick Nunn, who has been driving Lakers fans crazy because the Lakers have been very, very tight-lipped on any kind of updates regarding Kendrick Nunn. There was an expectation that he was going to be reevaluated. Gosh, it was about a month ago at this point, and then nothing came of it. We never heard anything official. According to Shams, the Lakers are hoping Nunn will return in January. Been dealing with a bone bruise. Frank Vogel did admit less than a week ago that Nunn would not be playing this calendar year, that would be more likely coming back in January. And now Shams backs that up, saying Lakers are looking at January for a return for Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question here. I tend to talk an awful lot on this show, so I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm sure you've given them elsewhere, but let's do them here in Front Office Show. Does it worry you at all how much is being put on the return of especially Trevor Ariza? It feels like every few days there's a new one. We get Trevor Ariza back. Trevor Ariza is not a bad player, but goodness, you're not adding this is not the Nuggets getting Jamal Murray back or the Clippers getting Kawhi Leonard back, but it feels like it's somewhat being really painted as this is going to be the season defining return from injury. And I just struggle with that.
I think part of it has been the team is struggling right now. So, hey, when this guy comes back, buy yourself a few more weeks there in terms of the pressure that's been on Frank Vogel. I think there's maybe that aspect to it. But I also think just skill set wise, because you're right, Trevor Ariza, 36 years old, it's not like you're getting an all-star coming back here or anything like that.
Yeah.
Skill set wise, the Lakers have been very starved for what he brings in terms of ideally, we'll see what he's at physically, but a guy who's got some size on the wing that can switch between multiple positions. I think that's been something that they've very much been lacking. But again, can Trevor Ariza be that guy that you can lean on? And then that also begs the question, okay, well, if you really needed a wing player this badly, which I've been saying it since the offseason that they did, why would you only sign Trevor Ariza to fill this role at 36 years old and put yourself in a position where you're in trouble because you don't have that if and when he does get hurt? And of course, he started the season off.
That's a great point.
Injured. If Trevor Ariza is such an important piece, why did you only get one of them? Why didn't you go and get multiple other wing players, which admittedly are hard to find, but still that should have been a bigger priority, obviously, if Trevor Ariza's skill set is truly this crucial to the Lakers. That said, I do think he can help them. But you're right. He's not an all-star coming back or anything of that nature.
And I mean, I'm guessing they thought Kent Bazemore would kind of be
Sure.
that second-ish kind of guy. He just doesn't have Ariza size. But yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, I mean, when we said it multiple times. If you're banking on this many older guys miss games. It just happens. It's just the reality of it. So yeah, it was that was it maybe instead of going and getting Rondo, who you probably knew wasn't going to play all that much, maybe you should have invested that position in another wing or something
James
like
Ennis.
that. Yeah, I know. Yet James Ennis still sits.
James Ennis was like doing jumping jacks outside of the Lakers facility, like, sign me, holding up a neon sign, please sign me.
Like my shirt.
Not literally. Yes. He was wearing your shirt. He was waving around the Cape. Lakers sign me. And Rob Pelinka said, no, I can't hear you.
Dating ourselves a little bit here, but it's like John Cusack,
oh,
right?
Yes. Holding up
box.
the
outside, like, just like, please, let me in. I'm ready to go. So maybe it'll happen. We'll see.
Oh, don't give me hope. Don't give me hope, Keith. The Knicks, let's move on to them. Sources said
this was maybe the most surprising thing in this entire, all of this stuff we're covering today. Almost all of it came out of Shams Charania's piece on The Athletic. This was the one where it's like, wait, what? Of all the things in there. Sorry. I had to had to jump in on this one. Go ahead.
Sources said teams are inquiring about Knicks forward Kevin Knox, aka the Knicks said, really, everybody believed them. Teams are calling about Kevin Knox. Someone else be interested in him. Knox scored 18 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, and made 5 3-pointers in 29 minutes against the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, aka showcase game. Someone please come trade for him. He was the Knicks' number 9 pick in 2018. Averaged 13 points and almost 5 boards as a rookie, but has failed to gain traction in the organization. But could something change? Question mark from Shams. That's the Knicks saying, please, change. Someone come take him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only reason he played was because RJ Barrett's in the health and safety protocols, Obi Toppin's in the health and safety protocols, and Alec Burks missed the game, I believe, due to the birth of a child. I may have that wrong. I know it was definitely for personal reasons, but I think that was why. So that slid Knox up, and he got some minutes. I mean, good for him for semi taking advantage of them and doing something with them. But yeah, there's no value to be had there. No one's trading for Kevin Knox as a maybe he gets in a deal as a throw-in for something. But I continue my now defining memory of Kevin Knox as I believe we may have been sitting with each other, or if not, we were Vegas. There was Zion at Summer League.
Oh, the ragdoll.
He ragdolled and stole that rebound from him and threw it down and sent the entire press row into fits of laughter because it was like, holy crap, this is what we have with Zion. So I don't think he's on the list. We should talk about that briefly. Because that came up over the weekend. Shut down. We don't know when we're going to see Zion now. It sounds like he's still got some foot soreness. There's been some reporting coming out of New Orleans that he's been skipping rehab workouts. Tim McMahon reported he was 330 pounds. That's like Shaquille O'Neal sized big. And he's not 7 foot.
No, he's not.
Like Shaq is. He's closer to about 6'6" or 6'7". So I mean, just do what you got to do. Get it right, man. We want to see this guy play. But yeah, so just wanted to throw that in there too.
Yeah, not great for Zion Williamson or the New Orleans Pelicans. Obviously not what we wanted to hear in regards to him.
Nope.
The Kevin Knox thing, just to kind of put a bow on this, we always talk about reading between the lines in terms of who benefits and everything very clearly. This is the Knicks putting out there, hey, look, everybody pay attention. He just played and he did fairly well. So, I mean, a lot of teams are looking for wing players. Maybe someone talks themselves into, taking a flyer on him or something like that, but it's not something where they're going to get major value in return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would also say there's a potential here that Knox's agent was a little like, hey, trade for my guy.
That could be true too.
Life somewhere else too. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, and that would be one where the Knicks and Knox's camp would be likely working together to, let's move on.
The Orlando Magic have sought draft capital, aka a first round pick, in exchange for Terrence Ross. Makes sense for the Magic to move on from him. He's a veteran. By the time they are good again, he won't be around anymore. So they're looking for a first-round pick in exchange for him, averaging almost 11 points per season or per game this season. So per season, that would be really bad.
I could maybe pull that off. No, I couldn't.
11 points per game this season, but they're setting that bar out there. That's the asking price. Yep. If you want to score off the bench, you could certainly do worse than Terrence Ross. What do you think? Do you think he gets moved if that's the asking price? Is, hey, we need a first?
I don't know if it's a first, but maybe 2 seconds, kind of like what Evan Fournier went for last year. Could be, give us a couple quality seconds, and we go 12.5 this year, 11.5 next year. Teams won by the time we get to the trade deadline. This will go to the trade deadline, is my guess. But by then, teams will need bench help. They'll need bench scoring help. This is a guy, right? We spent a lot of time saying this is why the Lakers can't trade for all these players. This is the kind of guy that they could go get. I'm not saying that they would. But this is the kind of player, a wing with a little bit of size, some shooting ability. That's a guy that they could go get, but any number of teams that have eyes on being a pretty good playoff team could use Terrence Ross. So my guess is they'll go. The other thing factoring in here too is Markelle Fultz has started practicing again, so he's probably not too far away. Jalen Suggs will be back eventually, and then eventually Jonathan Isaac is going to return too. And at that point, it's why are we going to give 15 to 20 minutes a night to Terrence Ross, who's not part of the future here? Let's move on. It's not in Sham's report. It's just a very open secret around the league too. If you want Gary Harris, just make a phone call because they're more than happy to listen on him as well.
He's very much available. Well, I mean, The Magic are in a almost rare position in the NBA right now in terms of they're clearly sellers. There's not a lot of teams who right now are in seller mode. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do find some homes for these guys because there are some teams that are very motivated buyers too. The Phoenix Suns playing tremendous basketball, but Jalen Smith very clearly not part of their future plans when they declined his option. Now the Suns have had interest generate in potentially trading him. But interested teams expect a potential move for Smith as of the December 15th date. So it sounds like it's only a matter of when, not if, Jalen Smith is moved on somewhere else.
Yeah, and here's the challenge with Jalen Smith. If you acquire him, you're limited. You can only re-sign him for up to $4.7 million next season. That's the declined amount of his third-year option. Very rare that a player gets their third-year option declined, but that did happen in Smith's case. He played against Boston over the weekend and played fairly well. He actually put together a pretty decent game, but that's because DeAndre Ayton was out, Frank Kaminsky is out. They were really down to JaVale McGee, and then Smith was their only other big of note on the roster. So he did see a few minutes and played okay. But yeah, that's your thing. It's kind of similar-ish to the Kevin Knox situation of, hey, give us, something for him. Give us maybe a guy who fits a little better, maybe a couple of extra years under contract. You see if you can figure out him. We'll see where it goes.
It still doesn't. I don't like the asset management from the Suns when they decided to decline that option on him, because like you said, now if you want to trade him, the team that's getting him can't really do much to keep him. If let's say you trade for him and he does well, okay, he's gone. He's a rental. Yep. So that's the challenge now for the Phoenix Suns. But we'll see if they can get something
trade for him and he breaks out and looks great. You're stuck. You can't re-sign him. So
the Spurs. Bryn Forbes is generating some interest, averaging 12.3 points per game in the 12 games where he's played 15 or more minutes. Pick some stats here. Cherry pick some stats there. In games where he's played 15 or more minutes, he's averaging 12.3 points per game.
That's my Mr. Baseball. I led this club in 8th inning doubles in the month of August last year. Thanks. Cool.
And then you also get the little bit that he was a critical part of the 2021 NBA champion Bucks, showing the ability to complement stars like Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. So again, reading between the lines, Shams probably doing some favors here in terms of pumping up the market for a guy like Bryn Forbes.
Yeah, and could Bryn Forbes help a team? Sure, $4.5 million this year. Just that's it. It's a 1-year deal. So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Spurs never make in-season moves anyway, so I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah. Lastly, the Jazz are pursuing a defensive-minded wing on the trade market. I mean, them and everybody
Makes a ton
else,
of sense.
right?
Yeah.
But yes.
But yeah, I mean, that is kind of the one hole that they have, on this team. You got Gobert, get everything else covered. Their offense is fine. They don't need any more offense. Yeah, if you can get it, just who, right? That becomes your question. Because look at all the names we just kind of threw around as maybe being out there. None of those guys fit that bill because they don't come available all that often.
Know
who they should get?
Who?
Torrey Craig.
That's
if
true.
The Pacers are blowing it up. Why not go get Torrey Craig? You'd have to throw together a couple of year contracts, but go get Torrey Craig. He'd make some sense there. There's a defensive wing for you on the relatively cheap.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I think that would be a good fit for Utah.
Credit Keith Smith.
Yeah, they need to make sure they tag you in that trade when it's done.
Yeah, that's it. Make it happen.
So, just to finish things up here, when you get pieces like the one that was released today by Shams, you get stuff like this from Woj as well. The reason why we keep going back to who benefits is because in the overall NBA game, in terms of news breaking, right, in terms of power, sometimes in order to make sure that you get the scoop that's coming down the road, it means doing some favors and things of that nature. So sometimes when you see stuff that comes out, you have to stop and consider, okay, where's this coming from? Why might Shams be saying this? Why might Woj be saying this, or whoever? Because that's kind of the game within the game. You have to look beyond just what's being reported and stop and think about where it could be coming from, because that can change. That changes the lens that you're looking at it through. So that's why we try to stop and make sure we go through that and mention so many times and kind of laugh when we say it, who benefits from this in terms to try to figure out, in terms of figuring out where this information is coming from, because obviously that can change the validity of it, how we take in this information and things like that. So it's just kind of a filter you have to look at trade rumors through, because that's just the nature of the beast and the way NBA news goes.
Yep. One last piece of news, I think it came out over the weekend. Isaiah Thomas and Langston Galloway, two veteran NBA guards, have both signed with the G League and hope to play in the upcoming G League Showcase, which is in about a week in Las Vegas, just before Christmas. That is kind of the time when they bring all the G League teams together. All of the NBA world kind of converges there on it for a few days to watch all these guys play. So IT and Langston Galloway looking to work their way back, and credit to those guys, because it's that can be a tough swallow of the pride to say,
Sure.
all right, I'm going to go this route. But clearly those guys, they're not doing it for the money at this point. They should both be perfectly fine in that end, and they're going to do what they can to get back to the league. And IT played all right for the Team USA in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. So let's hope. I'm forever going to root for Isaiah Thomas to re-find a home in the NBA. I just say more. It was some of the most fun I've ever had was covering him. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, best of luck to both those guys. Hopefully they are able to battle their way back into the league. But everybody, let us know if you have any thoughts on any of these stories in the comments down below. Don't forget, subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, make sure that you do follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you do listen to podcasts. It's going to wrap things up for today, unless something else breaks later this afternoon, which you never know given this crazy league. But we went over a lot today, so we appreciate all of you coming in and joining us. Till next time, stay safe and see you.